Deep within the towering stone walls of the great temple, where the scent of incense hangs heavy like a cloud, lived two brothers. One was Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, with eyes as round as the sun, and the other was Balabhadra, strong and tall. Usually, they sat still on their jeweled throne, but tonight, the air smelled of sweet spices from the village outside, and their divine tummies were rumbling for something special. "Brother," Jagannath whispered, "do you smell that? It is the scent of fresh betel leaves and sweet lime." Balabhadra chuckled, his white face glowing in the lamplight. A pan? At this hour? But the temptation was too great. With a shimmer of golden light, they stepped down from their pedestals, disguised themselves as two simple travelers in cotton tunics, and slipped through the heavy temple gates into the moonlit streets of the town. At the corner of the market, a man named Kalu sat by a small wooden stall. He was sleepy, his head nodding against his chest, until the shadow of two tall strangers fell across his jars of spices. Jagannath leaned over the counter, his eyes twinkling with hidden mischief. "Good man," he said softly. "Would you prepare 2 of your finest, sweetest pans for 2 hungry travelers?" Kalu, startled awake, immediately got to work. He selected the freshest, greenest leaves and expertly smeared them with lime paste. Balabhadra watched with fascination as the vendor added crushed betel nuts, sweet rose jam, and a pinch of aromatic cardamom. The rhythm of Kalu's hands was like a dance, folding the leaves into perfect little triangles that smelled of the very earth and stars. The brothers took the treats and took a large bite. The flavor exploded, sweet, sharp, and cooling all at once. They looked at each other and grinned, their faces lit by the joy of a simple midnight snack. But as they finished, Jagannath reached into his waistband and realized something terrible. In their hurry to leave the temple, they had forgotten to bring a single copper coin. Kalu waited, his hand outstretched for payment. Jagannath felt terrible. A lord should always pay his debts. He looked down at the beautiful, hand-woven silken towel, his sacred gamucha, draped over his shoulder. It was embroidered with symbols of the sun and moon. "Please, friend," Jagannath said, handing the cloth to the confused vendor. "We have no coins, but this cloth is worth many pans. Keep it until we can return." The next morning, the head priest, Damodar, entered the inner sanctum to wake the lords. He began his prayers, but suddenly he gasped. The sacred silken cloth that usually rested on Jagannath's shoulder was gone. He searched the floor, the throne, and even behind the statues, but the cloth had vanished into thin air. "The Lord's finery is stolen," he cried out, his heart racing with fear. Damodar hurried into the village, asking everyone if they had seen a stranger with a divine silken cloth. Eventually, he reached the market and saw a familiar flash of yellow and red hanging over Kalu's pan stall. He ran over, his eyes wide. "Kalu, where did you get this?" he demanded. Kalu blinked, confused. "2 travelers gave it to me last night," he explained. "They were very kind, but they forgot their wallets." That afternoon, the Maharaja Gajapati fell into a deep sleep. In his dream, a brilliant light filled his palace. Lord Jagannath appeared before him, not as a statue, but as a radiant being. "Do not be angry with the vendor or the priest," the Lord said, with a chuckle that sounded like chiming bells. "My brother and I simply had a craving for Kalu's famous pan. The cloth was my payment for a debt of sweetness." When the king woke up, he laughed with joy. He sent for Kalu and Damodar immediately. He paid the vendor a bag of gold coins for the pan and returned the sacred cloth to the temple. From that day on, Kalu became the official pan maker for the palace, and everyone in the city told the story of how the Lord of the universe once traded his finest silk for a single sweet bite of a betel leaf.